This is Jack the Ripper, one of history's most infamous serial killers. But it turns out there may have been two Jack the Rippers. It all started in 1888 in London. The story goes that there was a brutal series of murders committed by a man who would become known as Jack the Ripper. Mary Ann Nichols was the first victim, followed by Elizabeth Stride, Catherine Eddowes, Mary Jane Kelly, and lastly, Annie Chapman. One theory is that Jack was a doctor who was fascinated with the female anatomy and wanted to study it up close and personal. Another theory is that Jack was a former soldier who had seen a lot of violence and killing people made him feel powerful. There was another serial killer at the time who was operating in London, and his name was Montague John Druitt. He was also a doctor, and he was also obsessed with the female anatomy. In fact, he was so obsessed that he kept the skulls of some of his victims. Now, Dr. Druitt was eventually caught and sent to prison, but not for the murders that Jack was accused of. Instead, he was locked up for having an affair with a married woman and then killing her husband. Still another theory is that Jack was a member of the royal family, and he targeted prostitutes because they were easy victims, and no one would suspect a royal. However, the police didn't believe him, and they never opened a new investigation into the Jack the Ripper murders. One of Jack's victims was found with a rare type of blood disease, and when Dr. Druitt was examined, it was found that he didn't have this disease. So maybe the Jack who wrote that letter to the police wasn't actually Dr. Druitt. Maybe they didn't want to upset the royal family by arresting another royal. But what we do know is that these murders shocked the world, and they continue to fascinate us to this day. And don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Thank you for watching. Or maybe they just didn't believe that there could have been more than one Jack the Ripper. This last theory seems far-fetched, but there was actually a royal involved in the Jack the Ripper case, and that was Queen Victoria. All of these women were killed in similar ways. They were all brutally stabbed multiple times with a sharp knife or knives. People were demanding that the police catch this killer, but the police were struggling to find any leads. So Queen Victoria stepped in, and she offered a reward of £1,000, which was a lot of money back then, for information leading to the killer's arrest. But even with the promise of a large sum of money, no one came forward with any useful information. Some of them also had their throats slit, and Jack seemed to enjoy making his victims suffer before they died. He got this name from a letter that was sent to the police that was signed Jack the Ripper. The letter reads, "Dear Boss, I keep this just to show you that I was the man who mutilated the women in Whitechapel, and the name Jack the Ripper has stuck ever since." In total, Jack the Ripper is believed to have murdered 5 women, all of them prostitutes. There are many theories about what motivated Jack to do what he did, but no one knows for sure. You see, when these murders started happening, the public was outraged. And that brings us to the question, could there have been 2 Jack the Rippers? But here's where things get interesting. Dr. Druitt's brother later wrote to the police and told them that Montague had confessed to him that he was Jack the Ripper. However, there is one detail that doesn't quite add up. The truth is, we may never know for sure whether there was one Jack the Ripper or 2 Jack the Rippers. So what do you think? Was Jack the Ripper a one-man or a team effort? Let me know your thoughts.